Welcome everybody to our session from observability to ROI for AI agents on any framework. We're excited to walk you through Microsoft Foundry Observability. We'll start with an introduction, but then we'll get right into a variety of demos that cover the end-to-end agent DevOps lifecycle, where we'll walk you through how you can observe any agent on any framework, run through our code-first end-to-end observability, talking about both inner and outer loop, optimization, how you turn traces into action for continuous improvement, and then finally, how you prove the value of your agentic workloads through agent ROI. Now, we all know that agents are non-deterministic, creating new reliability and consistency challenges for developers and operators. This is where observability comes in. Microsoft Foundry Observability covers 4 core pillars, starting with tracing that let you view the full end-to-end execution workflow of your agents, then going into evaluation, which are all run off of the traces so that you can assess the quality and safety of your agents, transitioning to monitoring, where you can run the same evaluations that you run offline in an online setting so that you can detect issues in real time, and then finally leading to optimization so that you can continuously improve your agents. Now, Microsoft Foundry provides all of the building blocks that you need to create reliable and high-quality production agents. Observability is part of the control plane that spans across all of the capabilities that you need to build agents, including our agent service, models, IQ for knowledge, tools, and machine learning capabilities such as fine-tuning. What we're going to cover today in this session is we're going to walk you through the agent DevOps lifecycle. We're going to show you how traditional DevOps is evolving for the age of AI agents. We're going to start with getting started, show you how you can get out of the box observability, and then we'll transition into the inner loop, where developers plan, code, test, and release, all with observability at their fingertips directly within the IDE. And then as they transition to the outer loop, they can leverage the same observability capabilities to monitor their agents, analyze results and get insights, optimize, and then feed those signals back into the inner loop for continuous improvement. Now, before we do that, let me walk you through our demo scenario. Our demo scenario builds on the data center scenario that you saw in BRK251, which was the other session on developing production agents. And we have a vendor history analyst agents for Microsoft's data center operations. What this agent does is, if I'm a vendor manager and I'm managing vendors that are fixing and addressing issues in data centers, I want information about how those vendors are doing so that when I have a conversation with those vendors, I can have a data-driven conversation to get outcomes. And what this agent does is it summarizes vendor job history, surfaces insights, highlights key learnings to help me have those conversations. Now, in the first part, let's go into the getting started experience. Here, we'll walk you through how you can get out of the box observability, and we'll start with the beginning of the inner loop, going from plan to code, test to release. And for that, I would like to welcome Filisha on stage. She's going to kick it off with a live demo to help us get started. Welcome, Filisha.
Hi, Sebastian, and thank you, everybody. I'm so excited to be here to show you the end-to-end loop and especially the agent lifecycle and the inner to outer loop journey. So as you have probably seen in one of the talks that Jeff and Tina did, all about how we deploy a hosted agent and what hosted agents are about, I'm going to start with an existing hosted agent. And this is the agent that Sebastian was talking about. It provides us with details about the vendors and what are things that they're probably doing. Is there any investigation or insight that I need about their work? So this is the playground that's in our portal. You can send it a query and see what it does. I've sent it a query, the basic query of something a user might type. And soon you'll see on the right side that the logs will start streaming in, so you know that this has been sent to my agent.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to get some result back to understand how my agent might actually do in production. And what's really important is when we start playing with agents, it's really hard to assess if they're trustworthy, if they actually have good health. And I don't always know how well I can do that.
So how do I do that? How do I figure out how to evaluate my agent?
Yes, so evaluation is the key word over there. The thing that I want to see is, can I set up my agent in a way that I can evaluate for a bunch of different types of questions that a user may ask, so it can cover a wide range of cases. This agent is thinking for a little bit, but while it's doing that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and show you the various ways in which we can actually do evaluation. But the one interesting thing that I want to demonstrate today is something that we call our Rubric Evaluator. So a Rubric Evaluator is a really interesting new feature that we've added to Foundry, and it gives you a multi-dimensional evaluation score.
That's cool. So I have no data. How can I get started?
Okay, so that's a good question too. Let me see if I can actually first start with a rubric. I'm going to just show you how I fill out this rubric. So what I'm going to do for this rubric is I'm going to name it something and suggest that it be a rubric type. I'm going to give it the system prompt that my agent uses, select a model, and the target for it is the hosted agent that I just showed you. And then I'm going to go generate the rubric.
Oh, this is cool. So this is where I can add the context that to go and generate an evaluator. That's
yes.
awesome.
So you can always upload more context files from your code. You can obviously do this in code as well. And once this has gone ahead, it will create something like this. Over here, you will see that my rubric is generated across 8 different dimensions, and they hold different weights. And it's really interesting that it's Foundry is able to actually do this based on the prompt and the agent that you have suggested.
So this really simplifies evaluation for me because I can see everything across a whole set of dimensions all within a single evaluator. That's really cool.
Yes. Now, I obviously want to see how well my agent did. So let's go back to my agent. So it has replied. And you can see over here that it didn't think for 0.0 seconds, but it's contradictory. The evidence is they're not sure whether this vendor actually needs some management from my side or not. They have a recommendation. Great. So this is something that I would want to investigate. So let's go to the traces over here where you can see, let me pull up the traces of other types of queries that this agent might have interfaced with. So I know exactly whether there is an issue with the way it's replying. Is it actually a good reply or not a good reply? You can see that these traces are being run because we've set up continuous evaluations and jobs. So it's pulling production traces from App Insights for me, and I can see all of them represented over here. And you can also see the evaluator that I had previously created running against these traces, and it gives me a score as the traces populate in. You can see over here that the scores are varied based on the kind of question the user asks. Oh, interesting. You can see one score over here, which is a little bit low, and I want to investigate that. So I'm going to just look at that trace and then click on this trace ID. And as I open this trace ID, it gives me this really rich view. In this view, you can see that when I'm invoking the agent, I am able to look at the evaluations against them. And okay, I see the detailed view of the fact that both task completion and the vendor history rubric score are both low.
Can you click on the user view so that I can see what actually happened so that I can analyze the explanation?
So let's look at what this prompt was that generated this low score. So it seems like the user asked a very specific question, and it seemed like the agent lacked the exact data that it was supposed to provide, because which was referenced by the user.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's effectively hallucinating. It's pretending to say, hey, this vendor's performing well, but it's not actually giving the correct response with the context that the user was requesting. Awesome. Yeah, this is very cool, Filisha. I love the demo. We're going to do a quick recap of everything that we just saw in this demo. One of the exciting things that we are looking forward to announcing today is the open ecosystem support that Foundry provides. So what you saw within the tracing experience and the evals being run off of the traces is a core part of Foundry's value proposition. Not only can you evaluate Foundry agents, but you can also evaluate Foundry and non-Foundry agents that are built with any framework. So that includes the most popular agent frameworks that are out there: LangChain, LangGraph, OpenAI SDK, Microsoft Agent Framework, and you get complete visibility into the full agent execution workflow and eval signals that are produced directly from the traces. Now, from there, you get full stack observability through Foundry's partnership with Azure Monitor. Within Foundry, we give you observability for your apps, agents, and all of the AI platform components. But then all of that data goes to Azure Monitor, where you can get full stack view across all of your Azure resources, your data, your infrastructure, and so forth. And then we read that data back into Foundry so that you have centralized observability for all of your AI workloads. The other thing that you saw Filisha present is our Rubric Evaluator. We're really excited to announce that the Rubric Evaluator is now available in public preview. It gives you out-of-the-box and context-specific observability for your agents. Whether you're creating a new agent and you have no data, or you have an existing agent that already has traces, you can use Rubric Evaluator to auto-generate a multi-dimensional evaluator and use that both for your offline testing and for your online evaluation. Now, let's take it one step further and let's move into the full agent DevOps loop, covering both the inner and outer loop. We covered a little bit of the getting started experience, but I'm going to hand back to Filisha again for the next part of the demo. We'll show you how you can use our code-first observability.
Yeah, awesome. So we were in the portal, as you may have seen, and I am now in my editor. And what I wanted to demonstrate is how we can use the Foundry MCP server and the Foundry skill to better understand, analyze, and even do actions on behalf of Foundry from your developer environment.
So how do I get access to the Foundry MCP? How does that work?
So the Foundry MCP and the Foundry skill are both packaged under the Foundry Toolkit, which is an extension in VS Code. Eventually, we will be working with other coding agents and other editors that you can use it over there. But today, you can go and access it from there. What I have done right now is just prompted Copilot chat inside VS Code to go and get that eval result that you saw me hook up earlier on the portal, and to give me some associate explanations of why you saw that 0.4 that I pulled out from the traces, why is that score showing up low, and what are opportunities for improvement. Now, the cool part about using this skill is that a skill is ultimately an opinionated flow that we as Foundry creators are providing to you as an end user to say, hey, this is how you should observe and analyze and perhaps optimize your agent. This is the loop that we would recommend you do. So when you use this skill, it already knows what part of the observability loop you are in, and it can suggest you things that from Foundry, or perhaps they could be like coding issues. It could be either a client-side thing or a server-side thing. It helps you connect both those layers to suggest improvements for your agent.
So wait a minute, I don't have to go through hundreds of traces and eval results anymore?
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of being able to actually use this skill. And you can see over here, it's using the Foundry MCP and getting the evals. And it's going to run this entire thing for me for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is show you a run that I did previously over here. And here you can see the exact same query that I just sent a couple of hours ago. I was using my project endpoint, and it got all these evaluator, it ran eval get, and it got the evaluator definition and the last run and all of that. And it's giving me the last 8-hour evaluation analysis. And here is the entire summary.
Wow, that's cool. And it's even all of us were trying out this agent and it's showing all of our evaluation runs. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're a great team. It looks like my runs actually didn't do as well as perhaps Vivek's, but that's fine. So it's also giving you a per dimension breakdown, and it's also telling you which dimension is actually the weakest.
Oh, that's really cool. So within the rubric, right, we have a bunch of different dimensions, and being able to drill into the dimension that has the low score is a really great way to get insights.
Yeah, and you know, it's always well and good if my monitoring tab is showing me something's off, but what do I actually do about it? I mean, that's the real challenge. And over here, it's actually giving you a pretty detailed explanation of what could have gone wrong, what are the patterns, and what are the recommended improvements. Over here, the other thing that I want to drive home is that this is something that you can trust more than obviously just putting that result in a general LLM, because it is grounded, first of all, in your repo context and in the skill context of Foundry. So it just makes that more actionable and trustable as you analyze the failure patterns that are coming up. So here it's recommending that I can perhaps do a system prompt change, and it tells me reasons for that, and also perhaps how I should change my harness and evaluator to better do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually say, that's what I did. I said, yeah, draft the system prompt, and I'm going to set it off, and it's going to come up with like a new prompt for me. And it did come up with a new prompt, like a new system prompt, which, oops, I actually deleted that file earlier. But what I can do is I can like actually set out a new baseline and see if it actually helps improve the score on the rubric.
Yeah, the cool part is that first one, metric definition block, addresses exactly that trace issue that we saw earlier. But how do I do this at scale? You know, is there, I can do this kind of one-off, but you know, what can I do there?
So the cool thing about Foundry and it all being all in one is that you can actually pull these traces back into your data set. And what that helps you do is it helps you regression proof these things later on. So if you're just a developer working in your inner loop, you can run the changes that you may be locally staging for your agent against that data set and then push that code to production.
That's awesome. Really great demo. Thank you, Filisha. And we'll do a quick run through again of the core set of capabilities that we just highlighted, including code-first observability for Foundry agents, which we're super excited about, the skill-based guided user experience that you just saw, where you can not only run evaluations, but you can also analyze the evaluation results. You can do comparisons across. You can look at traces and then seamlessly transition to optimization and making improvements to your agents. And that's all available in VS Code, GitHub Copilot Chat, CLI, and so forth. There are a number of other additional public preview capabilities that we're excited to announce, including multi-turn evaluation, which is a new capability within the Foundry. Previously, everything was single turn, but now you can look across an entire session. Where this is really powerful is an agent might succeed at the end of the session, but if a session took 20 minutes, that's not a successful session if you expect the session to take 5 minutes. So we can do that with multi-turn evaluation. Another feature that we're shipping that goes along with multi-turn evaluation is user simulation. User simulation enables you to automatically generate realistic conversations. So if you don't have multi-turn data available to run your first evaluation, user simulation helps you get started. And then the other bit is, and Filisha alluded to this already, is what do you do with all of the signals that are generated? Well, you want to be able to feed traces back into the inner loop to improve your test coverage. Your initial test coverage is only going to get you so far. If you have 20 test cases, that's not going to cover everything that you see in production. So now with traces to data sets and smart filtering capabilities, you can select traces and feed those back into your data sets to improve your test coverage in the inner loop. Now, I'll quickly walk you through our evaluator catalog. So you also saw this earlier. We have a very comprehensive evaluator catalog in the Foundry with built-in evaluators that span across quality, risk, safety, and agent evaluation. Several of our evaluators are now multi-turn as well: groundedness, coherence, task completion, customer satisfaction. And our rubric evaluators are also multi-turn, so that you have the ability to create both custom LLM as a judge and code-based evaluators and rubric evaluators and make those multi-turn. We recommend that you use a variety of these evaluators. Rubric covers, obviously, multi-dimension, but custom evaluators, including code-based evaluators, especially for non-deterministic scenarios, are highly recommended. For example, if you want to do a regex check or look up something in a database, you can do that with a code-based evaluator. You don't need an LLM as a judge to do that. Now let's move on to the next part of our session, which is optimization at scale. So for that, I would like to invite Vivek on stage, and he's going to walk us through the next demo.
Thanks, Sebastian. So happy to be here. Let me start with a quick recap. So we started with, we have an agent that's working well. It's hosted in Foundry. We have a data set, which is a list of representative tasks that we want our agent to be doing. And we have rubrics, which tells us how good it is on those tasks. Now what comes next? We know that how good it is. We want to still improve it. We want to fix specific gaps, and we want that agent to be, in general, doing well across all of those tasks. This is where AZD AI Agent Optimize comes in. There's a new feature that we're launching, and we're going to see live how it works. So I'm going to start. And it starts with a warning. Optimization will create new versions of your agent. And this is a key feature that we are just not recommending with this optimization what your next system prompt should be. It is also trying out. It is deploying those versions for your agents, trying across those tasks, and assessing on rubrics, and then iterating on it. The prompt or the context that works, it doubles down on it. Which doesn't work, it tries another strategy for it.
That's awesome. So that it's real. It's live.
Yes, yeah. It is real, and it is iterative.
Yeah.
The next thing is eval.yaml. And just to quickly state, we already recapped it. What I need to get started is an agent that's hosted, a data set. That's my data set that I wanted to be doing well. It's a 40 query data set. An evaluator. This is my rubrics that Filisha walked through, that how I'm assessing how good that agent is on those tasks. And that's all. So I'm going to say yes for this one. It's reading my instructions file. So this is a system prompt that I've given for my agent. I want it to be iterating on it. I can also iterate on skills. I have not configured skills for this agent, so I'm not going to say anything here. It can also iterate on my tool description and parameter descriptions, because that also goes into your agent's context and affect how agents use those tools. I'm going to want to improve that too. And there's also one more thing where we can also iterate on if there's a set of models and I'm not sure which model is good one for me, I'll specify a list of models here, and it can recommend the model that's best performing for my agent on those tasks.
Why is that important?
Well, yeah, this is one of the things where there are new models every time. There are trade-offs between cost, latency, and you need to be able to run these evaluations multiple times to figure out what good this model is. As a developer, I've done it a lot of times in a very non-streamlined way, where I try a new model and then figure out what it is, and then have to redo on it many other tasks. This one is where I can figure out the best possible combination of model, prompt, tool definition, and skills all together.
Awesome.
So in this one, just to recap, I am selecting only a model, a system prompt, and tool definitions to be optimized. This is asking me to select an optimization model, and this is different from my agent model. This is a model that's going to be used by the optimization job to self-reflect, to read traces, to read evaluation rubrics, and then decide what needs to change. The better model, the better it is. So even if your agent might be running with a smaller model, using a better reflection model here really helps. Okay, we have started.
How long is that going to take?
It can take minutes, tens of minutes to...
So I can walk my dog and get coffee in the meantime?
Well, I have already run this before, so we can jump into it.
Okay,
prior run of it. So this is my agent. I took the same agent that Filisha had, and I wanted to optimize it. So this is an in-progress job that we just started, but we can look at the last job that I've been hill climbing on. And first up, we got a 24% boost over what our base system prompt was, tool definitions were, with just context engineering. And this one, I didn't have to sit through, read the prompts, read the traces.
Wow, that saves a lot of time. Yeah.
Yes. And it happened in 25 minutes. But more importantly, we can walk through it. It created 4 candidates for me. The first candidate, it suggested a system prompt that made 38 out of 40 tasks work for me. Then the next one is system prompt and tools, and then finally a candidate 4, which works all the time, 40 out of 40, and has increased the baseline score from 0.577 to 0.7.
So it keeps trying new things and then adjusting along the way.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, that it is figuring out the right thing to change, trying it out, learning from that, and then iterating and then suggesting the new things.
Awesome.
We can quickly see what it has changed. And I really love this view, that you can see that the system prompt has been changed, grounded more on the traces and your data and your rubrics. And it has also changed tool definitions. So the description of the tool has changed. And we remember earlier that it was hallucinating on one of the vendor details that was not there. These are exactly those things that it has addressed here.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yep. You can dive deep into these view score details, and you can see your evaluation results. So this is a real evaluation that has been run for this agent iteration. And I really like this view where I can go and see view rubric details. I can see for a specific task what this task is, why it has been scored, and also read an analysis out of it.
So is this a one said and done thing, or what do I?
Yeah, it's not once said and done. So I've optimized on these 40 tasks, but my agent will do many other tasks. Yep. It's a thing where you have to keep looking at your traces, figuring out what are the right set of traces are. Smart filtering will help there. And then keep doing this optimization, keep hill climbing for your agent based on what users are trying, domains are changing, model is changing, and even your tool descriptions tool definitions and tool implementations are changing here.
That's awesome. Thank you, Vivek, for the fantastic demo. And Agent Optimizer is now in private preview and will public preview soon. We're really excited about this feature. As you saw, it enables you to try different combinations and then pick the best combination for the job. You're using evals and running through those combinations and then surfacing the results back up to you. Now let's walk through the final part of the session, which is walking you through how you prove the value for your agents. So return on investments for agents in Foundry. This is the final step. So once you've set up your inner and outer loop, how do you prove the business value of your agents? Well, you have to do math. You have to figure out whether or not your agents are generating sufficient value that's worth the cost that you're spending on your agent workloads. So for that, I'm going to walk you through a demo, and we'll show you the new agent ROI feature that is in private preview, and we'll also public preview soon. The way this feature works is it looks at all of the agent invocations, and based on the settings that you specified, so you can go to the settings, enable the feature here, you select an evaluator, and then you assign a business value to the evaluator. Now, you have to do the math to figure out what the business value is. We don't have that information available. But let's just say, for this vendor analyst agent, every time this vendor analyst agent successfully completes its task and gives me an analysis, that saves me $5 worth of time that I would have spent running a query or looking up the information elsewhere. And that is the business value that's generated by this agent. Now from there, I can go into optional settings, and one of the things this feature does is that it automatically pulls in the token cost of your agents, and then you specify the tool cost of your agents. So that's something, again, that we can't provide, and you have to sort of average out across your agent invocations, but that's the other part of the feature. And then once enabled, I can track over time the net value that my agent is generating. So you can see I have, in this case, 3 different versions, and then over time I can see the difference between the value and the cost and the net value. And it's interesting because I can see that the tool calls are actually costing me more than the LLM, and that's something that I could potentially figure out how to optimize. And then at the bottom, I can also see how the ROI is changing across versions. And one of the other features that we'd be providing as part of this capability is for the ability to then drill into traces so that you can look at traces that are low ROI. To give you a really good example, if you have an agent invocation that is an agent call that just doesn't succeed, that is all negative cost. That's something that you obviously want to drill into. You can use the code first capabilities that we provide to root cause and analyze what happened. And so we're very excited about this. As I mentioned earlier, this is now available in private preview within the Foundry. We are going to make this available soon in public preview as we collect more feedback. And if it's something that you're interested in, we're more than happy to talk to your sales team, and we can engage with you and have you try out the feature, give us feedback, and so forth. Now, we walked you through your end-to-end observability in the Foundry. We started with building reliable agents. So Filisha showed you how you can test out your agents in the playground. You can then create a rubric evaluator that is context-specific. You can look at traces to test out the agent and look at the evaluation scores. And then we went into the IDE. We showed you your code-first capabilities with Foundry Toolkit and our Foundry skills so that you can debug it. Finally, we gave you the ability to optimize, and then you get that sort of broader view with the agent ROI feature. Foundry Observability covers broadly all of the capabilities that you need to ship your agents with confidence, giving you tracing, evaluation, monitoring, and optimization. So we covered on a lot of these features today. I will just briefly go through and emphasize a few key capabilities. For tracing, we continue to invest heavily in OpenTelemetry as the standard that underpins both tracing and evaluation. Our engineers are heavily involved in the open source community. We're contributing new semantics, for example, for memory. We just contributed new semantics for memory that are coming soon into Foundry. That is something that Microsoft is committed to as part of the open source effort. And then for evaluation, we also have beyond the rubric evaluator, the built-in evaluators that I showed in the catalog. We have red teaming agents, CI/CD integration, so forth. For monitoring, we also, in addition to running evaluation in production, give you access to all of the operational metrics that you need to understand how your AI applications and agents are performing. And then finally, for optimization, we have the agent optimizer, but we also provide single-shot optimization. That's another option that's available for you. We have a number of customers that are already using our observability capabilities, like NTT Data, who are using Foundry together with Azure Monitor to transform AI into an enterprise-grade, production-ready system with all of the built-in capabilities that we provide. We're very excited about this. We would love for everybody in this room to give it a try, give us feedback. We launched a bunch of new capabilities that we're super excited about at Build. We have a lab where you can get your hands-on sort of experience with a bunch of these capabilities. You can also take the lab with you, so that we're excited about as well. Everything is available online. Now, as a reminder, Microsoft provides all of the building blocks and the agent for the agent platform. You can start building in GitHub, and then within Foundry, you get all of the capabilities that you need to be able to run your agents, evaluate and optimize, and then get all of the governance capability and so forth, and all of the building blocks that you need. And then finally, you can distribute agents to your users through M365 Copilot, Teams, apps, and APIs. Now, what's next? We have a bunch of Sessions still coming up tomorrow. So if you missed any of today's sessions, they are here. I encourage you to watch the recordings. But tomorrow we have a breakout session on A365 that also covers how your Foundry observability aligns with A365. So if you're interested in that topic, highly recommend that you attend that session. We have a demo session that goes into a little bit more detail on the interoperability story that we just talked about. And then we have a lightning talk that covers how Azure Monitor fits into the picture. We'd love for you to attend that as well. Here's a link to all of the resources. Like I said, the lab is going to be publicly available. So if you don't have a chance to attend the lab here, you can get access to that. And we encourage you to start building, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a great build.